Last time we pulled all the data for Yum, so we have 5 years of income statements, balance sheets, and cash flow statements. Now we're just going to wire them up. So anything that we can use formulas in, we're going to. So for instance, we can add franchise fees and company sales together to get total revenues here. And total is going to be a giveaway most of the time that something's being added, summed at that point. And then we're going to bold, italicize, and put a top border there. Okay, just to separate those from everything else. Okay, and then we're just going to keep doing that. Anything we can add together, anything we can do wiring appropriately will be helpful in multiple ways to make sure we haven't made mistakes, as you'll see later, and for later stuff in the semester. So if I go down, looks like this would be the next one, company restaurant expenses. Again, you'll have to play around with it some and just see, because each company is going to be a little different, but it looks like these three should add to that, 9682. They don't have it clearly there, but that's okay. So this is going to be the sum of these three. Oh, Control Z, up. And when I drag it over, I'm just checking when I drop this that all these, I'm trying to look to see if any of them change. If they change, that means there's something wrong. And it looks like those are all fine. Total cost and expenses. And again, what this does is this bold up here tells me to stop, right? I don't want to sum in anything above that because that includes the numbers above it. And so it looks like that number didn't change. We're going to drag it over. All those numbers look like they stayed the same after adding the sum. And we move on. Operating profit. So this is just going to be revenues minus expenses. Revenues minus expenses. Drag that over. Looks like it came across good. And keep rolling. Interest expense. Income then before taxes is going to be profits minus interest expense. Most likely. Looks like it worked fine. Yep. Bold. Italics top. Left. Bold. There's taxes. We'll use that to do implied tax rates later. But income before taxes minus taxes gives us net income, right? So we got that. And in this case, they have some non-controlling interest, so we actually have a little more line we got to mess with. Not all companies will have that. But you'll see we're going from 1021 up to here, so it's minus this negative 30. So just, kind of pay attention or run it. You'll see it changes and something's wrong and then adjust. But it's this minus this. We're not going to be able to do anything. Yep, looks like it's good. Anything with per share right now. We'll do more of that later in the semester. So, income statement down. Let's go to balance sheet. Current assets total is probably the first one, and I can check to make sure 1646, 1646, so there's lots of ways we can make sure we're getting the right things. 1646, we drag it over, and I have my first number that changed. So this number changed, these all stayed the same. 887 doesn't make any sense, right? We have $1,400 in cash, and none of these are negative, so we can't have only 887 in total current assets. So I'm going to Control Z, and I'm going to go back and, look at these sums to 887. Sometimes all it is something simple like this number is not being picked up for some reason, and I don't know. It looks like it's a general format. It doesn't look like it should be an issue, but sometimes just retyping a number it's not picking up will fix it. So let's see. Yep, sure enough, now it's fine. So bold, italicize, top it, bold. Moving on down, property, plant, equipment, goodwill, blah, 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 total assets. So again, this is going to be the sum of up to total current assets. It's grabbing all the stuff above, okay? And those all stayed the same. Bold, italic, top it, left, bold. Keep moving down. Same thing with liabilities. Are usually total current liabilities. long-term debt liabilities other than long-term debt. Total liabilities. So total liabilities equals sum of these three. Looks like everything came across fine. So we just keep rolling. Now we go to equity. Common stock, retained, accumulated. Now this one's just going to be a sum of these two, right, because this is 0, but it has some further on. So make sure you're picking up all 3 rows, not just the 2 that matter for the first year, or you're going to end up with wrong numbers. So if I do equals this plus this and drag it over, you'll see that these two are going to not pick up the common stock value there, and they're going to change. See that? So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to do equals sum of all 3 of those rows, and then it'll be fine. Yep, good. Now bold, italics, top left, bold. Total shareholders equity equals this plus this. So 34 plus 33. Drag that over. Looks good. Bold, italics, top. And then total liabilities and equity. So, right, total assets has to equal total liabilities and equity. So these two numbers should be the same. If you just do liabilities and equity, they won't be. So here's total liabilities, here's shareholders equity. It's going to be off just, 9. And what you'll see is this redeemable non-controlling interest isn't getting picked up in either total liabilities or total shareholder equity. It's separate. So make sure you're getting all the pieces needed. So we got to make sure 28 is in there. Oh. And then it should be happy. Yes. Okay, looks like all the numbers are the same. And we can always check. So we do a lot of things like check figures. And balance sheet's a good place to do something like that, where we can run a separate line and we can say, check figures. And we can say do liabilities and equity equal total assets. So I can just take it minus total assets, hit enter. We should get zeros. And what we want to do is then add some conditional formatting. Okay, so I'm going to keep all these highlighted and set 3 conditional formatting rules. So I'm going to drop down conditional formatting. It's in home, highlight greater than. So if it's greater than 0, we want those cells to show up red. So I'm going to hit OK. Conditional formatting highlight cells rules less than. If it's less than 0, we also want it to show up red because that'll tell us something's wrong. And then one more highlight cells rule. If it's equal to 0, I want it to show up green. And you'll see they're all green, and that way if something gets changed, it'll immediately alert you that something's wrong. Okay, so that's a real handy little thing if you're wanting to make sure you inputted stuff, is you can always use conditional formatting to check. Okay, but for now everything's happy. It looks like the balance sheet's fine. Everything's wired up. We're going to move on to cash flow. This one, we're actually going to start with, rather than just summing stuff, this net income piece. I'm going to go ahead and pull from the income statement because we have net income right here. And you're going to see that it picks up the pre-non-controlling interest is what goes into the cash flow piece. So just, and that can be done with visual inspection. 1021, you go over the income statement. It's obviously not 1051, okay? So for a cash perspective, that non-controlling piece doesn't matter. So we're going to pick up this net income and drag it over. And you'll see here today, the one thing you'll notice is when we can do these cross things, we should, because it'll help you find problems. But it'll be useful later too when we're doing pro formas and things like that. Cash flows, typically we just have to worry about the 3 pieces: operating, investing, financing. At the bottom of each one, there should be a net cash from that section, and that should just be a sum of all the numbers above it. And most of the time it is. In this case, it's going to be slightly off in one of them. So first thing you're going to notice is 2 of these numbers change. This one did, and this one did. So we have problems in both of those. or 3 of those. Oh, 3 of those. It changed this one too. And the reason that is if you look up here on net income, these are identical. It's pulling something wrong from the income statement. If you go back to the income statement, you'll see that when we pulled the 5 years of income statements, actually 2012 got duplicated. And so I'm going to go ahead and just delete the second 2012, and then I'm going to rerun that over the top of that. And now, if we go down here and drag that sum over, you'll see that only one number changes. So this is the only one that doesn't fit the original. Okay, so let's go back to the original so we can see that. Here is the original number. So if we delete that second 2012 equals sum of 20 up to 4, and then we drag that over. Oh, it still doesn't like something. Control Z, Control Z. So you should check all these things. It'll help you. Yeah, there we go. All right, just to get used to, it'll catch mistakes for you. There. Now all these stayed the same. This one changed. Now this one, the original number is 2139. I have checked that number. These numbers add up to 1899. This is the correct number based on these numbers, and I have looked at their past cash flow statements and everything, and there's nothing that makes the right 2139 number come out here without digging through their entire those financial statements. I've even looked at a couple of those and I still haven't been able to find out what it is. So I'm just going to plug the number they give in there for now, and then if I really need to chase down that extra couple $100 million there later, I will. But for now, I'm just going to change it to the number they provide and then highlight it and make sure later to go back and check that, because there's something wrong with that number and I don't know why. Okay, and I've already looked at Edgar Online and stuff like that. So then I'm just going to go on investing activities. So net cash from investing activities equals the sum of these. Bold, italics, top it. Oh, we should probably do that to these too, huh? Bold, italics, top it. And net cash and financing activities. So equals sum of all of these. And those all look like they came over fine. And then down here, here's effective exchange rates on cash. Net increase or decrease in cash, therefore, is going to be that exchange rate plus what we did with financing plus what we did with investing plus what we did with operating. So if we just add all those up, that should be our net increase decrease in cash. Looks like it came across fine.